Warning, the following video contains scenes of excessive zombie violence and gore. If you are deeply upset or shocked by such things and are a bit of a pansy, then don't watch the video. Please move on.
Festival once again in sunny Headingley, and it's Easter Sunday, which is quite fitting considering that Jesus Christ was the first zombie. We're here to check out another 6 back-to-back zombie movies, all in aid of the WSPA, the World Society for Protection of Animals. So, what more can you say? Let's get in there and chomp on some brains.
Thank you so much. This is the 4th in the trilogy. It's fantastic. Is anybody that came to the first one? Right, everybody else leave. Can we just say that we're stunned every year that you all come, because usually we always assume we're just me and Dom sat in the middle holding hands watching films on our own. So, and who knows when that'll lead. Well, thank you so much for coming to the 4th Leeds Zombie Film Festival.
First up, we've got the now seemingly compulsory Italian/Spanish zombie horror movie with a winning combination of excessive gore and unintentionally hilarious dialogue. It's City of the Living Dead, also known as the Gates of Hell.
I mean, I love Italy, right? It's my favourite country. They do loads of zombie films. They're awful. For those of you who came last year, you'll remember...
Burial Ground!
I would happily show that film every single year. I love it. And I want Michael. I want to be Michael. 2 words about Burial Ground. Dom's fault.
After a priest hangs himself in the middle of a cemetery, Mary, a young woman with psychic powers, sees a vision of this happening and apparently dies from fright. She later reawakens, but by this time she's already been buried in her coffin. Luckily, New York journalist Peter hears her screams and rescues her by plunging a pickaxe into the coffin exactly where her head is. Amazingly, despite coming within inches of having her face chopped off, Mary is incredibly grateful. Now it turns out that by the priest killing himself, the gates of hell have been opened, and the living dead now walk the earth. Mary and Peter have until All Saints' Day to close the gates again and save humanity.
This is the only film you'll see where zombies can where zombies have teleportation and levitation abilities. Not common. Yeah, good times.
Funnily enough, my favourite scene in this movie doesn't even involve zombies. When this old guy catches his daughter in the garage with this other bloke, he goes absolutely ballistic and starts beating the crap out of him. This might seem like an overreaction, but bear in mind that the same weirdo was about to get on with a blow-up doll earlier on in the film. During the scrap, the weird guy knocks the switch that turns on a power drill. Guess what's going to happen next? The father starts choking him and holds his head down as it slowly gets closer and closer to the drill. This sequence is so long and drawn out that it's absolutely comical. The guy doesn't even put up a fight against the old man. He just looks at the drill in terror as if he's thinking, oh no, I'm going to get drilled to death, what do I do? You put up a fight and try to get out of the way, you dumb shit? Otherwise, this will happen. Messy.
Okay, so we've just started off with City of the Living Dead. I think that's going to be an education in how not to make a zombie movie. Random things going on in the background, like Howl the Monkey's going on there. I think they picked up a sound effects CD at some point that they want to make the most of. Not to mention the fact there's not a single scene where the music doesn't fade out, it just ends abruptly. Just a classic rubbish zombie movie, basically. It's one of those ones that's actually so bad it's actually rather quite good. Not to mention there's some fantastic gore moments, not just the drill scene there, but the scene known as the Devil's Spew, where the lady actually appears to puke up what is actually an entire ghost intestine. Lovely stuff.
Before the next film, we had a 15-minute break to get all gored up, because, to be honest, we were looking a little bit too clean.
There we go.
I so did.
And it also gave us the opportunity to take some photos, including Team Zappas, who appear to have been on a recruited drive since last year's festival. This then led on to the inevitable Team Zappas vs Zombie Showdown. Next up, Siege of the Dead. The film begins with a bloke called Michael arriving in Berlin to hand over a set of keys to his ex-girlfriend, although his real motive for doing it in person, rather than just sending them through the post, is to try and win back her affections. Upon entering the flat, he finds it empty apart from a couple of plumbers, one of whom suddenly takes a turn for the worst and tries to bite him. Upon forcing the angry-looking tomato man out of the door, Michael and the remaining plumber try to come to terms with what is happening around them, as the city becomes plagued with flesh-eating zombies. Although having said that, these zombies aren't these shuffling deadheads commonly seen in Romero's movies, but have more in common with the rabid marathon runners of 28 Days Later and Wreck. However, there is an interesting element to this particular infection in which the virus can be suppressed by the infected remaining calm and not getting angry or upset. This makes taking sedatives on a regular basis essential, and this little spin on traditional zombie conventions gives the residents genuine reasons to leave the relative safety of their homes without it seeming like a forced plot device.
Does anybody speak German?
Nine!
I gave you that one. In German it's called Rammbock, which means... Anybody? No. I don't know what it means, I was hoping you could tell me, I have no idea.
This German-made zombie flick was originally called Rammbock, and along the way this has oddly been translated into a painfully obvious title as Siege of the Dead, which only makes the movie seem like it's trying to pass itself off as one of Romero's efforts, which, to be honest, really doesn't do the film any favours. This is only made worse by the DVD sleeve, which shows helicopters flying them on skyscrapers and firing rockets at the undead, none of which I can assure you is present in the movie.
And it came out around the same time as Apocalypse of the Dead and Diaries of the Dead, and I don't know if anybody's seen this film. There's something called Big Tit Zombies. Have you seen that?
Woo!
Woo!
Have you seen it?
Never once,
And it was kind of bundled in with them lot, and it's just far more than the sum of its parts. It's an amazing film. It's absolutely fantastic. Big Tit Zombies. It's a real film. It's an actual film. It's not to be confused with there's another film made in 2001 called Siege of the Dead, and one reviewer called it shit. This isn't that film. This is absolutely amazing. It really is incredible. I really, really hope you enjoy it. And this is our favourite film so far of the whole 4 years.
I do have a couple of criticisms about the movie itself, though. The main one is the running time. At only an hour, it's a very brief film, and although it packs a lot of action into its time slot, you do wish that more time had been spent fleshing out the characters, such as some explanation for Michael's failed relationship, for example.
So Siege of the Dead makes for a very enjoyable, entertaining film, actually quite touching in place. It's a zombie love story, if you can imagine such a thing. Perhaps the most unusual and effective take on the zombie movie I was encountered since Colin, which we saw last year, the no-budget Brit flick. It's not a classic by any means, but it's a damn sight better than George Romero's last film. Speaking of which, next up, Don and Mac have secured a nice little spot for the master himself. We're going to be having Land of the Dead.
Set in an American state where the zombies outnumber the living, the divide between the rich and the poor still goes on within a fenced city known as Fiddler's Green. There, the rich live in comfort and rule over all, led by the smug Kaufman, played by Dennis Hopper. Mind you, why money's still important during a zombie apocalypse is beyond me. Meanwhile, the zombies are starting to evolve and remember moments of their lives before zombification. Step forward the zombie known as Big Daddy, who becomes the leader of the pack. Hey, and that's a pretty cool name for a zombie. This film draws on some elements from the original script for Day of the Dead, and indeed the two films share some likenesses with regards to a dark sense of humour and the intelligent zombie idea. It's not as grim as Night of the Living Dead, nor is it as smart and innovative as Dawn of the Dead, nor is it as exciting and as gory as Day of the Dead. But it still beats the hell out of other recent additions to the zombie genre, there's still plenty of inventive gore, and Romero still manages to carry a powerful message that underlines it all. References to the rich/poor divide are obvious here, as well as not too subtle digs at the US government. Also, keep a lookout for Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright making cameo appearances as zombies, along with makeup maestro Tom Savini, reprising his role as the biker from Dawn of the Dead, but this time in zombie form.
There aren't any zombie films that he's not done a cameo in. It's tiresome actually, he's always there, just turns up at the set. This film did really well, made a lot of money, and it's Romero again, being quite political. It was about the haves and have-nots in America, and he's trying to sort of make social statements and political ones. And that's the end of my boring George Romero interview. He's not here, but he says he wishes he could be. Good old George. Enjoy Land of the Dead. We're going to watch this, and then we're going to have an hour for dinner, stroke, pints of lager. So, 2.5 hours.
So yeah, as you can see, we've gone a bit more upmarket since last year, so we're going to go for a brain piece, I think. Anyway, we've just been to see Land of the Dead, as you know, with George Romero. Now, at the first zombie film festival, we had Night of the Living Dead, and we had Dawn of the Dead. Second year's on the film festival, we had Diary of the Dead. But last year, we had Day of the Dead. Now, we have Land of the Dead this year, which means that next year, if we are doing one, we're going to have no choice but to have Survival of the Dead, which none of us want, really. So, unless, of course, George Romero gets his finger out of his ass and makes another film in the next 12
Next up, and it swells my manhood with pride to say this, is Fido, a Canadian zombie movie starring Billy Connolly and Carrie-Anne Moss. I'm particularly pleased that they've been able to show Fido at this year's Zombie Film Festival, because Dom and Mark have actually been trying to secure the rights for this ever since the first festival.
We tried to get the rights for this for 4 years, and Lionsgate wouldn't give the rights to show it at all. And we got a sense that it, joking about that it was just simply because they couldn't be bothered as much as anything else. Really weird. Anyway, Fido, a Canadian zombie film starring Billy Connolly. Which is a strange combination, really. So Lionsgate were really difficult, but it's really quite a big budget movie. It's set in a sort of alternate 50s universe where the zombies have become zombified because of rays from space, which I think is a good enough excuse for any zombie film. Really, not many other excuses. So it's it had a big budget of about $8 million. And it's a really good film, and it's a mystery to us, and I'm sure it will be to you when you've seen it, what a limited release it had. It had a really limited release in America, and globally, it made less than $500,000, having cost $8 million. And because of that, Fido is among the lowest return on investment films ever recorded. So on that note, please enjoy the crushing box office flop that is Fido.
The film is set in an alternative universe in 1950s America where World War II never took place, as mankind was actually busy fighting off the zombie forces. There's been a change in the atmosphere of the planet which makes anyone who has died come back to life as a flesh-eating zombie. Mankind has managed to make these zombies domesticated thanks to the use of collars that control their hunger of human flesh, and are now used as household slaves.
What is that zombie doing in my Easy Boy?
Imagine if you had Shaun of the Dead, but you took the setting and crossed it over with Pleasantville, and you'll probably have something that kind of resembles Fido, along with a few moments from Lassie. It's no accident that the little lad that Billy Connolly's zombie, named Fido, becomes best friends with, is called Timmy.
Is Timmy in trouble?
Fido now, despite the fact that Billy Connolly hardly says anything, he makes a fantastic performance, he actually makes a great zombie. Funnily enough, Billy Connolly actually gets killed off in most movies that he's ever been in, including the Muppets Fish Island is the only character that we killed off in a Muppets movie. So with this, he just skips straight to the dead part, really. But Fido is definitely the one that you need to check out. It's only had a limited release, which is criminally costly, but it's one that definitely needs to be checked out. And I'm so glad that they finally managed to get a license from the show.
Next up, we've got French zombie movie, The Horde, or La Horde if you like. The plot centres around a group of corrupt French policemen who embark on a mission of vengeance after one of their colleagues dies at the hands of a notorious drug dealer. They storm a housing complex within the heart of a derelict Paris neighbourhood, with the intention of taking the drug baron down. However, the operation is a failure, and the team are captured. But suddenly, both sides find themselves confronted by a rather different opponent as a zombie apocalypse breaks out. Now, cops and criminals will have to forge an uneasy alliance in order to survive the undead forces. Like the Resident Evil movies, this is less reliant on tension and scares, and instead goes for tongues of blood and bullets washing the screen. But this is not necessarily a bad thing. In particular, the hand-to-hand bitch fight between a tough cop and a zombie woman got a huge cheer from the audience, and is perhaps one of the best fight scenes I've seen for a while. However, at times it did seem like the filmmakers had spent a lot of time playing on the video game Left 4 Dead, as that game's 4 main characters were all represented within this film too. One scene in particular, where one of the characters was stored on top of a vehicle in an underground car park filled with zombies, also looks to be lifted straight from Left 4 Dead as well. However, the film does explore that good old zombie movie question. Can mankind actually put its differences aside in order to live through a zombie apocalypse? And do we, as a species, actually deserve to survive?
So with the Horde, you don't know whether to root through the cops or the criminals in this one. In particular, when a bunch of the male characters decide to take advantage of an incapacitated female zombie and I quote, fuck this little slut. At times the zombies themselves often seem the more appealing characters to root for. Although we'll say this, the war veteran with his machine gun and his massive axe, his big chopper, excuse me, is easily the most amusing character of the lot. You want fucking hardcore? He's got fucking hardcore!
Thank everybody at Cottage Cinema. We'd like to thank Andrea Seaver, who's been amazing. It's really all our publicity. Please give her a round of applause. We'd like to raise the fortune for the year. We haven't counted all of it, but we'll put it on the website as soon as we know how much we break. Cottage Cinema have been brilliant as well, so can we have a round of applause for them? Thank you to all of you for coming. Every year, we cannot believe it. We cannot believe you idiots turn up every year, and we're really grateful, so thank you. And now I'm going to leave it to Dom to introduce The Evil Dead, a zombie film.
And finally tonight, before we go off into the night, Sam Raimi's cult classic, The Evil Dead. To be honest, I'm a little surprised that this film was included, considering that Dom and Mark have disagreed with each other over whether this actually counted as a zombie movie or not.
Hands up, who thinks it's a zombie film? That means you're a dick too! Hands up, who thinks it shouldn't have been shown? No, you're a dick.
Although if Dom could talk Mark into including Burial Ground, The Nights of Terror last year, then anything's possible, I guess. Mummy, this cloth smells of death.
Zombie film. Zombies are zombies. There is no such thing as a zombie. So, there is no such thing as a zombie. So we can create them in our own way. What? Stella, that's what. It's all bullshit. Zombies living in a strange dream. A strange dream where zombies exist on everything. Good night. Where the heart is. Zombie drama. Please enjoy this film about zombies that became zombies through evil possession.
A group of 5 friends go camping for the weekend in an old run-down cabin in the middle of the woods. Never a good idea in a zombie movie. Well, it turns out that some professor has been translating the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon. A centuries-old book that just happens to have been written in blood and bound in human flesh, so don't expect to find it in your local library. In stupidity rarely seen outside a horror movie or an episode of Scooby-Doo, Ash and his friends play the tape recordings of the professor's work, which results in the summoning of the evil spirits. This was one of the first films to be given the Video Nasty label over here in the UK, along with Zombie Flesh Eaters, and was actually one of the films used in order to argue in favour of a Video Nasty list in the first place. As a result, it was banned for many years, mainly due to scenes where ordinary household objects like pencils are stabbed in ankles, and some unfortunate lassie becomes the victim of some randy trees. It's a little slow in places, and Ash is a bit of a pansy in the first film. He doesn't really become the badass we all know and love until the sequel, which I really hope Dom and Mark can get for next year.
The Evil Dead will then go for 2 more sequels, numerous video games, comic books, and even a musical. Your team stars on a 4th movie series as well. If you want to talk The Evil Dead, in one word, it would be this. Groovy. So it's signing out. Take it easy. Yeah.
And then it pissed off.
I think most of the time it's that.
Doesn't he know that's not what you do for the zombie film festival? Spend all your time in the bloody bar. I couldn't find Zoom for that girl's book. You can't tell the music, you're told it's a believer.